What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of SSPN Postgame. Ethan, another week of doubleheaders, and I don't remember what the record was last week, but for this week, it's two Spurs losses in a row. Um, but for lottery odds, that's a good thing. That's something we can always keep in perspective. But I'm just going to throw it to you, Ethan. We were just talking about it a little bit before on air. What were your thoughts on this game overall?
Uh, First half was pretty competitive. We finally had a lot of our guys back. Obviously, we're still missing Keldon and Trey. Pretty big pieces to our squad, but I felt like okay, it'll be a competitive game for the most part. But then, it's a pretty simple formula here. Milwaukee was like, wait a minute, we're the number one seed. We have Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they just went on a crazy run in that third quarter, and there was just no recovering for the Spurs. Like nobody played bad, nobody played good. It was just a very game for the Spurs. It felt like we couldn't really find any momentum. It doesn't help when you shoot 23% from 3-point land. You shot it 39 times and only made it 9. And then Milwaukee shot 52% from the field, 35% from 3. They only played Giannis 24 minutes. Like it was just we were just
And he
outmatched.
had
Like
31 and 14.
yeah, 31-14, 2 assists, only 2 turnovers. Every Milwaukee player was positive and every Spurs player was negative in the plus minus, if you care about that stat. So it was really just the Spurs being outmatched. It just wasn't a fair fight from start to finish.
Yeah, when we were talking about this and I was even texting you about it before, I was saying like this game is still so much better than last night,
Yeah.
which would it kind of seems weird because if you look at the score, I think actually the Bucks might have ended up winning by more than the Pelicans did last night. They won 130-94 officially. So what?
hmm
That's 36 points. I can't do the math or I don't have the other score up immediately, but I'm not sure. It might be a little bit more or a little bit less, but the point is, if you look at the scores,
Milwaukee beat with one extra point. We lost by
right,
35 and then 36. Yeah.
right. So even though they won by more, this was actually like a more competitive game, and that's not just because of the first half, but just because of the people that the Spurs had on the floor. Like they got Zach, Sohan, and Devin on the floor tonight. Obviously, still resulted in a 36-point loss, and they dominated and took over as they should, as
hmm
with the best record in the league and the number one team in the East. Um, but at the same time, it was like there was a reason why it was a 2-point game, with about 2 to 3 minutes left in that second half, and it looks like the Spurs were about to come back. And that's kind of what you were alluding to earlier. That's right when the Bucks were like, okay, we've played with these guys for basically this whole first half. Let's go on a little run here to really, make them feel who we are. Like when we're, going 100%.
hmm
And they were up by 15, just like that. And then they continued that momentum. Basically, what we saw in that last little 2 to 3 minute stretch of the first half is what we saw for the entirety of the second half.
Yes, correct. Agreed.
Not too much to go off there, Ethan. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, you're fine. Anything else that I would say would literally just be repeating myself or you.
hmm
So I'm just gonna keep it at that. Agreed. Like,
We can jump into the box score a little bit. Just talking about some good things that I did see in those first, what that would be 22 minutes of the game.
hmm
I saw Malachi have a nice little up and under. I saw him adjust in traffic, not just to go make a layup, but also adjust to make a good pass. I saw that from Mamu tonight as well. Obviously, Mamu is going to go out there and try his best, being from the Bucks,
yeah,
and kind of play with a little bit. I mean, he's Mamu. So we know the intensity. He always plays hard. It wasn't like too different than what we've already seen, but I wasn't surprised that I saw him pull out a little bit of flashes just in his homecoming game, if you will.
hmm
They were talking about him a bunch on the Bucks broadcast too, and I think it's fitting also that we picked him up from Coach Bud, and then they picked up Wieskamp from us.
yeah,
Like we're Coach Bud and Pop, even though like they were saying that when Sandro, like Pop didn't even know who Mamu Kelishvili was. It was just like the front office came in and they were like, hey, like we want to sign him or we want to sign this two-way guy out of Milwaukee. We really like him. And Pop's just like, cool. Because at this point in his career, he's just straight coaching.
yeah.
But still, it doesn't matter. The Pop Bud connections, they're going to lead to just the Spurs and Bucks trading players for, the rest of the time that they're there.
I welcome it because
Me too.
they've all been pretty stout additions. Who else did we get from
Oh,
Milwaukee? Is it just Mamu?
It's just Mamu, but
I
then
thought we got somebody else.
The Sixers, we got two people from this year. We
Yeah,
got
Bassie
Bassey
and
and Champagnie.
mhm.
Um, I saw some nice things from Champagnie tonight.
Yeah,
Obviously, not the most like, how do I say this? Like, you're not going to take away a bunch from this tape
yeah.
because of the circumstances, but still just kind of showed his ability to, he can go get buckets off the dribble. I mean, that was kind of an easy layup, the one I'm thinking about in my head, but showed again that he's just he made some good defensive plays. He did that last night too. Obviously these are both blowouts, but I've seen him make some steals, some blocks, get his hands in there a little bit, and make some shots as well. So good to see
Mhm.
that from him. Our boy Barlow, man, or my boy Barlow is really what I should
Yeah,
say.
your boy.
Yeah, is struggling bad, man. Like it's looks
Yeah.
real rough as of late. Like it's like the spurts that we saw of him in the better, or excuse me, the spurts we saw of him earlier in the season were better than what we've seen as of late.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's well, no, it's definitely just that we're giving him more minutes. As much as I could try to talk myself out of that, that's just bluntly kind of what
Mhm.
it's been. Um, so
It
I think
doesn't
the signing of Mamu Kelishvili, I don't know if that's what you were going to go to there, but I was just going to say it's kind of looking. I feel like if we bring him back next year, it's going to be on another two-way. But the thing is, I wouldn't rule that out. And that's not just because I've been on the train the whole season. I'm just saying because if some other team is going to pick him up, it's probably going to be on a two-way too. So
Mhm. Yes.
unless we may end up finding somebody different, but it also wouldn't surprise me if like the whole time they were like, this kid's coming from overtime elite, like it might be 2 years, 2 years on a two-way.
Yeah. Old Dom. It hurts that the last couple games he really hasn't had a matchup that's like similar size and stature. He's really had to go against strong physical forwards and centers, which is just not where he is yet in his
Yeah.
career. So it makes it look a lot worse than it probably actually is. I don't know if it's just his physical stature at this point, just a lack of strength. It's also probably a combination of that. And to me, he doesn't really get great positioning and leverage. Like he just kind of stands straight up a lot of the times and
I
gets
feel like
pushed out.
that's decreased. Like I feel like he was better at that earlier in the year too. Like, and I'm not just
Yeah.
saying that. Like it felt like he was more physical, and then now tonight, comes in two quick easy fouls. Yes, it's Giannis, but like
Hmm.
still, like his positioning where his body was, it was like if you're gonna try to not get a foul, it's like one, just don't go for that, or you can't be where you're standing
Yeah.
because just where you're at, like especially against Giannis, but against most players, you're gonna get called for a foul.
Yeah, and he is only 19 still, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Like give him an off season to put on some weight and muscle. Yeah, I wouldn't mind bringing him back on a 2 weeks. I don't think anyone else, like you said, is going to give him like a guaranteed NBA contract.
And as much as we're crapping on him, like right now, like it doesn't look really like
Yeah.
it's tough to watch. Like you can't really send him back down to the G League right now. I mean, I know I'm advocating for a two-way next season, but that's a little different because you get
Yeah.
time in both. But you can't it's not really beneficial to send him back to the G League, at least right now. In the nature with all, especially with the Charles Bassey injury, that's
Yeah.
the main reason why he's been coming up and getting run. Is also because like I mean it seems like he's kind of, I mean, I don't know, maybe he hasn't, but it feels like with the stats at least he was putting up, he's kind of peaking in the G League because he's been putting up those
Yeah.
dare I say it, the Salmonich numbers. But
Yeah.
like, like the last game they played, him and Blake had 30, dominated, and Blake obviously still has some deficiencies.
Hmm.
I still think he looks way more comfortable just in this last kind of since the I guess the Denver game, I would
Yeah.
say, is probably since he's like, even though he hasn't, if you look at the box score like last night and tonight, you're going to be like, oh, Blake played terrible. But if you actually watch, it's like, okay, he's still much more comfortable. It's not like there's not as many turnovers. He seems to know more of what he's doing. Where with Dom, Dom doesn't know. He's not only is he not in good position whenever it comes to just like putting his body in a place where he's not going to get called for a foul, but he's also doesn't really. There's a lot of times where he's confused on defense and rotations and just doesn't know
Hmm.
where to go. Um,
It's
and
bound to happen. It's just
yeah,
bound to happen.
Yeah, but you would have liked to see a little bit more understanding and improvement in that aspect as he's gotten more minutes. So I think it's more disappointing, at least from my perspective, um, because of the fact that you would like to see progression.
I also think, Jude,
What's up?
you probably have way higher
That's
expectations
true.
than everybody else about Don Barlow. Like to
That's
me,
true.
like yeah, he is definitely not improving in the way that I was hoping, but I wasn't expecting a lot out of him.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I'm probably not as disappointed as you are.
Yeah. No, I didn't expect him. I didn't expect him to get bullied as much as
Yeah,
he's getting bullied. And also
me neither.
the unawareness. Like in that video I made, I talk about how he attacks space, right? And if you go watch his G League tape, like, and even at the beginning, like more like in like March or like January of this year, when we were seeing, those earlier minutes I was alluding to, but they were more spot minutes. Basically he just wasn't getting exposed as much, which he has been getting exposed more in a lot of different areas
Hmm.
since he's got more minutes, is the way to put it. If you want to go into specifics, it's physicality, it's IQ, um, and I mean, and hands too, you could say. I mean, so many
Yeah,
times, like what pops into my head right now is there's a rebound that comes right to him on the ground and he just fumbles it. And it's probably because he's just like, I'm in the NBA right now. Like,
probably.
and he's 19. Uh, but, excuses can only go so long. But I would say that, especially with the pickup of Mamu Kelishvili, um,
It's been huge. Yeah.
probably the only thing that Dom's going to get is a two-way next year. I still think his skill set is intriguing, but, if you don't progress in,
Hmm.
those areas, potential is just potential, if
For
you don't
sure.
reach it. So
It'll be a big off season for him for sure.
yeah, yeah,
Because we're notorious for bringing 20, 22 guys in a training camp and then,
that's true. That's
seeing
true.
who survives the fire. So he'll probably be one of those fringe dudes that we talk about next year. We're like, oh, he's probably cut. And then he ends up
He's
somehow
next
getting a
year's
deal.
Romeo Langford,
Yeah,
is what you're telling me.
exactly. Yeah, it could happen. Or
You
he could
never
be like
know.
Luca, where we're like, Luca should be the starting power forward. And then suddenly he doesn't chase the ball down on defense and he is gone like instantly. So
Oh my gosh.
it could go either way. Um,
Oh my gosh, man.
you
Well,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was just gonna say that, like, the other thing with Dom, like, I know and I'm not even trying to like backtrack when I say this. I just thought like his ceiling,
Hmm.
like, I was never trying to say he was an all-star. Like, I just want to say that for people. Like, I was never trying to say that. I just thought he could be a really quality switchable. Like, there were a lot of intriguing aspects as a role player.
Yeah,
But when you sign Mamu Kelishvili, who's already played 3 years in college, and I called him a rookie, I
I think
believe,
he's
on
like a
here
sophomore
before.
or
He
second.
is a sophomore,
Yeah,
yeah. But this is like the first real minutes he's getting,
for sure.
and he's still 23. So I mean,
Hmm.
there you go. I mean,
Yeah,
there are a lot of 23-year-old rookies out there. So I think we talked about that with Derek on an
yeah.
episode before. But yeah, he's everything Dom isn't and more.
Yes, yes.
So yeah,
Thank God we made that pickup. I can't
no, for
imagine how
sure.
poor we would be
Think
playing
about
without
Roby,
him.
dude. Imagine if we had Roby out
Oh,
there instead. At that point, Barlow might be the better option.
honestly, you're not wrong.
Like,
Rip Stanley too. I miss Stanley.
oh my gosh,
I
yeah,
miss my guy Stanley. But
man.
you briefly mentioned Blake. 2 for 12 tonight. Obviously not a great
Right.
box score, but he had 6 assists, 6 boards. Still brings the energy, like you said. Looks more comfortable every game, more confident. I'm fine with him missing 10 shots as long as he continues to take those shots with the same amount of confidence, which he has continued to do.
Yeah.
Um, so like this is what we wanted, right? Like he like you said, he was dominating in the G League. We were like, bring him up, let him get real NBA minutes. He'll make mistakes, he'll have off games. He's learning from them, and we're trying to lose anyway. So I welcome these these 2 for 12 games, as long as his mentality continues to stay strong.
Yeah. And it looks different than
It
Dom.
does.
Right.
Way different.
And I
He
didn't even
understands what he's doing.
hmm yeah. And I didn't even get to that earlier. I don't think I got to like actually saying it, but like him and Dom 30 for
Hmm.
Blake, and then 27 and 13 in Dom's last game. So like that's why you can't really send Dom back right now, because he's at the point or both of them, Blake and Dom, because they're dominating the G League, so they're not really getting as much out of that after sending a full season down there.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you got to put them in these real situations,
Yeah.
But this is where you find out, who is and who isn't.
The biggest improvement with Blake that is another thing Barlow has continued to struggle with is he's kind of figured out the nuances of his teammates. Like when he first got here, he was kind of still playing like he was in the G League, where it was like pick and
Right.
roll, and not really knowing how Doug likes the ball, where he's going to cut, when he's going to cut, how Keldon likes the ball and dribble handoffs, whatever it might be. And he's kind of slowly picked those things up, and that's kind of helped his playmaking as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the playmaking is the main thing.
Yeah.
He definitely and when he goes out there now, like when he's bringing the ball up the floor, like you said, he's not just like, all right, let me Notre Dame this.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's like,
He's
okay,
running an
I'm
offense.
going to be a point guard.
Yeah.
Like which you like to see that progression as well.
Same with Malachi from time
Yeah,
to time.
for sure. Absolutely. And that was kind of the next person I was going to turn to. I know he had another bad shooting night
Mm-hmm.
tonight, but I feel like that's just kind of, I mean, everybody had a bad shooting
Yeah.
night when you look at the numbers overall. And that just, once again, is a result of being outmanned. We've said this multiple times. Malachi's had bad shooting nights before, and then he bounces back. This is another example of that. Just another tidbit on the game, Ethan, that I noticed. Notice as soon as Giannis was out for an extended period of time, that's when Zach started scoring. Zach had like no points.
I noticed that.
And then he ended up with 12 and 7. And like most of those came when Giannis was out. It was just like you could just see the difference. And we still were getting outplayed by them.
For sure. Yes. And what's funny about Zach is we've given him so many roses in the last couple of weeks because of how well he's played since the Jakob trade. But there's still the reality of when he's having to play against big dudes, he's not going to get as many touches. So if he's playing with someone similar size, similar stature, we're going to run the ball through him in the post, let him go to work, let him dominate, and he'll get 20 and 10. Like that's something you can expect. But when he's going up against Jonas Valanciunas, Brook Lopez, Giannis Antetokounmpo, these are big, girthy dudes. Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, Bam Adebayo. Like these A-level to like B-plus level centers, he might not have as great of numbers. Yeah, Nurk. But as soon as he gets a mismatch, he's gold. But in order for him to be gold, he also kind of has to be next to Sohan, Keldon, and Devin and Trey. Ideally, like them being on the court opens up his entire game.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's just another good point on, unfortunately, there's just, I mean, he's a Gonzaga big, and Sabonis is a little bit bigger than him. And, we'll have to see, I think I might have even talked about this yesterday, but we'll have to see, like, now that he's had a full season, like, playing fully healthy, if maybe he can, add on some strength in the summer. But, this might also just be who he is. At least physically. You know?
I wouldn't, it's weird. I don't know if they want him to. Is the thing,
right.
Because of his history with knee and ankle issues.
More weight would only make that worse. And then they may just envision him straight up as a backup big, like,
could be
moving forward.
You could also, knock on wood, play him next to a Victor Wembanyama, potentially. And then you just have two guys that could play 4-5, and then you can, kind of switch it from there. Who knows what they're going to do, but
yeah. And with Bassey's injury too, that's another thing that kind of sucks about that. Like, not only is it just that injury, but I would have really liked to see him like last night and tonight against Valanciunas and against a Giannis / Brook Lopez, because he's really, the most physical guy that we have at center that could match up, the best matchup for those guys. I still think he loses all of those matchups overall,
for sure.
But I think that he is able to match up physically better than Zach would be.
Absolutely. 100%.
So sucks that those kind of reps were stolen from us, because those would have been nice to kind of scout for the rest of the season. But the Spurs know, and we'll get to see next year too, and for however long he stays, because technically he could stay for 4 years on just $2.5 million. Love that contract. Love that contract. Devin Vassell had a bad shooting night tonight, but I mean, it's the same thing. And you could look at the plus minus, be like minus 33. He didn't play that bad. He just, I mean, once again, it's this situation. And it's a very similar story as we've said with Malachi early this year. All good looks. I like the space that he was able to create. He has just become such a good shot creator this
Yeah.
year. That has been the thing for Devin. I've talked about the hop steps. I try to describe it, all that stuff. I should just say his shot creation. I mean, if you want to say one thing that has improved for Devin this year, that it's just like leaps and bounds and kind of came out of nowhere, it's
Mm-hmm.
that. It
Yeah.
is that. And he found a way to get 2 steals tonight. There were 2 strips, like back to back. Obviously, these are all garbage minutes, but like I like to see that. They were against kind of bigger guys. I can't remember exactly who it was. Yeah, looking on here, I can't see. Nobody pops out. But, I just want to say 5 for 16, but don't sweat it, Spurs fans.
Yeah, he looked confident to me. He looked strong. It was just the shot wasn't falling. Plus Milwaukee's defense, we can't say enough about there.
Right.
They just swarm.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's not too much to say about this game, Ethan. I might be dragging it out a little bit, but one thing I did want to talk about, and this is actually, I mean, good Lord, hopefully it doesn't bleed into next season. I don't think it will. But what do you think about Jeremy Sohan? Because when he it seemed like he got hurt a little, like he re-aggravated his thighs or his knees, this whole nagging thing that Pop has been talking about. And that was really when the turnovers started at that 2-minute mark of the second quarter. Do you remember that exact moment I'm talking about?
Sort of, yes.
Yeah, he had the ball, and then it was like something in his leg or a knee or a thigh, which is what he's been dealing with lately. It's like kind of I could tell, at least watching, and even the broadcasters the Milwaukee broadcasters were like, it looks like he hurt himself. He just let go of the ball kind of because he winced, because he stepped on something. Yeah. And then he came back in the second half, and I think this is just exactly what Pop told us he's been dealing with. But like, I think that's why, I know that this may sound crazy, I think that's why he went 0 for 5 from 3. I know he's not a good 3-point shooter already, but you could tell that he couldn't get his legs under him. And that's why he was frustrated with the shots when he was taking them. You see, I could tell you know what I'm talking about now.
As soon as you said that, I forgot. Because I remember watching him take a corner 3 in the third or fourth quarter. I can't remember which one. And like he took like a really weird and like deliberate dip. Like he like bent his knees more than usual. And I really got under the shot. And as soon as he released it, like you heard him go F word. Like, because it was front rim. And he like kind of jogged back up, not full speed. And it was like, yeah, something's wrong. Like, I thought it was just confidence, but that makes more sense that he hurt his leg a little bit and he thought he needed a little more.
And we only gave him 23 tonight too.
Yeah. I'm not worried about it. But he might just have to sit out a few more games and like for the rest of the season, maybe.
Exactly, Ethan. You lobbed it up, or you dunked it. I threw you the invisible lob. You didn't even realize you were catching it and posterizing Giannis there
with no regard for
in revenge of tonight's game. Yeah, with no regard for Giannis is done. Just he's quit. Thanasis has been cut.
Thanasis is
Oh my gosh, I don't even know.
Thanasis.
We were going with that now.
Oh, I think we were just saying that Sohan, that might be a little more serious maybe than we thought.
He might be out for the season. That's what I was. I mean, and I don't know. They might just keep playing him because they know it's not that serious. But that's why he got he only played 23 minutes, and that's why, like, if somebody else y'all noticed that watching the game, I'm sure it had to do with that, because all the body language was indicating that it was something in the lower body, which is exactly what's been like keeping him in and out as of late.
I don't know what the number is either, but I feel like he's played out of everybody on our team, other than like the bottom tier, like Keita Bates-Diop. He's played a lot of games this season.
Taking a lot of wear and tear too.
Wear and tear. He plays a physical game. He fights for every loose ball, dives on the ground. So like his body's probably just like, all right, man. And plus, it's his rookie year. So he probably hit that rookie wall too. He's probably fatigued, because he only played 30 games in college.
Yeah, however many at Baylor.
Yeah,
and dude's about to go play for the national team in Poland because he just doesn't care. I wonder if Pop will be like, But the problem is the Spurs love that. That's the problem.
He'll play.
He'll play. They'll do some, because it's not going to be that serious. But I just wonder, the main thing that I would keep an eye out on is maybe, I think there's like a chance that we might get an announcement. It's like Jeremy Sohan's been shut down for the rest of the year. Especially, I'm glad we're having this conversation because of what I just said, the Poland thing. I didn't even put that 2 and 2 together when I mentioned it 2 seconds ago. So
Yeah. Honestly, shut down Keldon too. Shut down Zach. Let's just roll out there with Devin. Let
no, no,
Devin
no,
get
no,
the
no.
rest of the
We
games.
can't. Okay, well, if we're leaving Devin in, we got to get one more so Mike Jimenez can be at
Oh
least.
yeah.
We need at least 20
We'll
so
let
he could
Trey
just be
play.
wrong.
Okay,
That's fine.
just Keldon and Sohan,
No,
and then
Trey and Devin. Trey and Devin.
Trey
That's
and
fine.
Devin and Zach can play, and then that's how we and Malachi, of course. So that's how we'll get the dub.
And that's how we'll beat the Jazz. Either the
There we go.
Jazz
Or the Wizards.
or the Wizards. Yes, this Wizards game that's coming up Friday is going to be it's going to be so important
A
now.
doozy.
We got to get the win. We just got to make Mike Jimenez wrong. For those of y'all who don't know what I'm referencing, he's the ESPN San Antonio guy,
Yeah.
radio guy who hates on Sohan a lot. And
For no reason.
but yeah, for no reason. And also he said that the Spurs were only going to win 19 games. So, Sohan's proven him wrong. Let's let him do it again. Unless he's out for the season. Devin can do it.
Please. Please.
All right, Ethan. What are our plans for Friday? Are we going to be able to do one or no?
I think so.
Okay. I should be free. I
think so.
I am free. So that'll be a 6:00 game too.
Oh, perfect.
So
gym afterwards.
yes, sir. So we'll be up live at around 8:30 then. An hour earlier than usual. So that's nice. And Easy says, if Jimenez is off by 1 or 2, is he really wrong? Absolutely.
Yes.
Definitionally,
yes. He was not exactly correct. Therefore, he is wrong.
Yes, I totally get what you're saying. But that's kind of the joke. He's been trolling Sohan, and then I forget, there was a bunch of stuff that he said. But he definitely got proven wrong with the Sohan stuff. So, he'll, of course, that's kind of the point, is saying he's wrong would annoy him more because it would only be 1 game difference, which would mean he's not really that wrong. But now we've explained it, so it's ruined. Anyways, thanks for hanging out with us tonight, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us throughout this season as well, and especially this back-to-back, because these have been 2 rough ones if you've been trooping it out here with us. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you love the Spurs and if you like our content. And also, if you want to stay updated with the show, follow us on Twitter at SSPN on YT, at Jude McLaren, and at Ethan_Quintero. We appreciate y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see y'all later.